flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me.
Turn on your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice and control.
What is going on, Hive? I hope everybody's having a fantastic Thursday. Sorry if that mic was loud. There we go. I got the audio coming in loud and clear. Let me go ahead and get my screen shared. Okay. Wow. We have a lot to talk about this evening. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm your host, Birdie. I go live weeknights at 7 p.m. Central. Welcome to the Hive Mind. This is a contrarian thinking live stream. We think past the headlines. We question the narrative. Last night, we had Christopher Whitcomb, who's an ex-FBI agent and ex-FBI sniper. He's done a lot of stuff in his life. He's also the author of the new book about the Idaho 4 case, Broken Plea, specifically surrounding the car, the cell phone pings, and the DNA found in the knife sheath. He breaks down the three pillars of the prosecution's case. Now, during that interview, there's a lot of stuff that was said. There's a lot of people with a lot of opinions, myself included. We are going to be diving into that this evening. I will give a forewarning. If you are easily rattled or offended on behalf of others, this is probably not the night to tune into the Hive. Okay? The gloves have to come off at a certain point. There has to be a level of intensity to these things, as I've stated many times, and as many of you have reciprocated back. And I'm very excited to get everybody's thoughts on it. I have so many notes. I've read the book twice. I've listened to that 3-hour live twice already today, in addition to starting to edit it for the quick cuts, which, by the way, if you didn't tune into the full live, obviously you can go rewatch it and you can view that under the live tab on my YouTube channel. I'm going to be putting it out in 2 parts this weekend. So the first part is going to be the interview with Chris and I just talking. And then I thought it would be cool to have the second part just be the questions from the Hive that he answers. So you can kind of go and watch a Q&A, or you can go and also watch what I have as far as questions for him. Now, as we are getting started and people are filing in, please, Hive, go ahead and hit that like button. That is the best way to support the stream. Hitting likes free, hitting subscribe is free. And it's the best way to support this channel. Share it out to your normie NPC friends. If you'd like to screenshot this, do so now. And then after the live concludes, just go into your Photos app and you can tap the QR code. That will bring up all of the Hive socials, the Spotify playlist for the intro song, the merch site, as well as our Discord, which I would highly recommend you join. In addition, if you'd like to join Hive Plus, you're going to get the emojis in the chat. You'll get the Hive Mind next to your name. And then you're also going to get a handful of perks as far as extra benefits for the Hive. The streams will always be free. Also, I'm going to do the first Hive Plus stream. I believe the best way to do this for the first time is, and I got to figure it out. I believe I'll be able to, but tomorrow night, I'm going to do a Hive Plus call-in show. Okay? So I want to hear everybody's thoughts on what Christopher said. And then tomorrow, the call-in will be reserved for Hive Plus members. Everybody can still watch it. It's just going to be for people that are part of Hive Plus. So if you do want to call in, the mods will be dropping that link for tomorrow night. Not every call-in is going to be that way, but I do, and I did promise that the Hive Plus people will get a few extra perks. So nonetheless, I will be saying what's up to everybody, and then we're going to get into it. What's going on, Uncle Daddy, Growth Renewal, Natasha Hill, Jessica Lynn, Nene, Crazy Nurse 13, Firefly, Lisa Marie, Full Choke Media. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. UFO Dog, Starla Berg, not Starla Burge. I saw your comment when I was watching the replay. They can't redact my beehole. We got Ava, Danger Zone, Moesha 23, Renee, Sarah Charleston, UFO Dog. I already said what's up, but I'll say what's up again. Secret Soul Survivor, Karen Bell, aka UK Karen. What's going on, Jessica? Blue Eyed Candy, Buzz Nutter, Elbows Mum. I'm in me mom's car. Oh, why does my brain have to think something, and why does it just have to come out of my mouth when it's things like that? Vroom, vroom. What's going on, Jennifer and Luna, Tiffany, Tishrino? What's up, Taos and DoorDash, Sleuth and Sweetheart? Tess Marie just joined Hive Plus. Thank you so much. And Luna Bliss, Florida Gal, Florida Girl, Yaz Lindsay, Pop and Switch, Sammy Girl Brown, how are you doing? Storm Walker and Unredactable RN Jen. Love that. I love that. Well, all right, Hive, to jump right into the theme, obviously we're going to be discussing a lot of what Chris said. One of the things that really, really jumped out to me, and I don't know if it did so for you all, if you got to the part of the interview where I started reading the questions and the super chats from you all in the Hive, the spare bedroom was brought up. And the answer, it was interesting. And so I'm going to ask everybody's thoughts. I actually took the Discord question of the day. When I ask this question, I want you to pertain it only to the Hive's interview of Chris. So what are your thoughts on the Hive's interview with ex-FBI agent Christopher Whitcomb and his new book, Broken Plea? And I will go ahead and I will throw some answers up on screen. Obviously, please be brutally honest as far as what you thought. And I will save my thoughts till the end. And then, like I said, we got a lot to talk about tonight, Hive. A lot to talk about. Yes. And I will say, great job, everybody, last night. Thank you for showing up and showing out. And the chat was active, to say the least. Think twice. Thank you. Appreciate that. Danger Zone said the Hive seemed to have brought out the best of him. He felt relaxed and willing to share. Tess said there's so much to process. CG says, I loved it. Lisa West said, totally awesome. Thank you, Nora the Explorer. You bought the book 10 minutes in. I love that. Let's see. Where did that go? Sleuther Dare said, I respect his knowledge, and honestly, I was very open-minded, so did not disappoint. Great job. I like that answer. I like that answer a lot. Jeffrey said, other creators are really trying to shit on that author about his past. They are already trying to discredit him already. I've seen some stuff, some Reddit threads. Nana Cal said, I still don't like the idea we don't have all the facts. Yes, and I have something to say about that. And let's see. Mildly playing character said, are you a speed reader? It depends. It depends on what kind of mood I'm in. There are times where I find myself staring at a page in a book, and it's like I think I'm reading it. I feel like I'm reading it, and then I get to the end about to turn the page, and I'm like, I have no idea what. I could not tell you one word that's on that piece of paper right now. So it depends. If I'm in the zone, I like to read. If I do read, I read in the mornings when I got the caffeine buzz from coffee, fresh nicotine pouch in, and I'm in the zone, relaxing, having breakfast. That's my favorite time. Darcy said, me too. Appreciate that, DKM N05. That's the ADHD, bro. Yes, it is. Pop and Switch. I enjoyed the interview. Respect the fact he's an author and his credentials as well. He had to say something for y'all to read. Okay. So thank you all for sharing that. And firstly, as I stated before I read that, I just want to say, and I don't want to bore everybody with this, but I really do just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to everybody who showed up, who tuned in. The questions were unbelievable. The engagement was unbelievable. I have a little bit of self-reflecting and coaching to do because as I'm watching the replay, I saw some comments about I looked a little distracted and maybe a little bit flustered at first. And I could see how that could come off that way to a guest. So I will be better about that. I appreciate everybody saying, you know, Birdie, just focus on the interview. I've developed some pretty good multitasking skills with listening. Obviously, the voice is directly into my ears and I can talk right into the mic. And I was trying to pull everything up. I think it worked out really good having visuals, and that's where I want to start. So my thoughts on the interview are this. One, something that I'll never do is I'll never change the format in which I feel the most comfortable doing an interview in, right? I try to keep it as close to how a regular stream would be as far as my screen shared. I'm engaging with the chat. I'm asking questions from the chat and also allowing my guests to speak and setting them up to have the best show that they possibly can. So that's one. That's first and foremost. Secondly, I wasn't going to watch anybody else's interviews because I had heard that DA or Devil's Advocates and the Custody Queens had interviews prior to him coming in the Hive. I wasn't going to watch any of them, but I started getting some texts and some emails and I started seeing some other comments and I was a little bit perplexed by the types of comments coming in, and really full transparency. I didn't expect to see stuff where it was like, this is wrong. This is simple and it's messed up. So I'm like, all right, I can't not be aware of this. And so I tuned in and I watched them and I'm really, really glad that I did. The reason why is that I saw something and I picked up on something that would happen when the chat would start to turn a little bit. It's happened in here. It's inevitable at times when there's a high emotion topic we're talking about, right? I noticed that Chris would really lean heavy back into the book when he felt like he was having his back against the wall. He'd refer to the book. He'd refer to the book. Obviously, he's here to promote the book. He's the author of the book. And I recognized that the questions being asked were a lot of statements about what he put in the book and then opinions as to people that had read it, what they thought, kind of almost telling him in a question way. Not every question, but I noticed a trend across both of them. And I'm not hating on Devil's Advocates or Custody Queens. You guys know that. This is just my observation. And so what I tried to do is I tried to not repeat a lot of the questions. I tried to have the screen shared for visuals so that he could explain. And my goal was to reference things in the book, but then allow him to open up on his own. And my questions that I was trying to ask were things like, so what are we supposed to do with this? Why is it so secret on the second floor? Do you know what happened? And then you all came in over the top with the haymaker at the end and just started letting them fly. And at a certain point, it was like, boom, I'm reading a question. He answered, boom, next question. And we got into this flow where he started, I believe he shared, whether you believe it's right or wrong, I think he shared a lot of things that he knew that maybe didn't make the book. Now, there was also some things, and I just saw Genuinely Confused said, yeah, you know, he skirted around it. There's kind of two parts to that. I think we all understanding that, you know, these are real people, real lives, real situation. We all understand the not wanting to defame, not wanting to get sued. He explained that with a book and, you know, he's not able to say certain things and he's got to be very careful about what he can say. I understand that. And I respected it because I get why he wouldn't want to go and put himself out there while his book's being released or might not even be released depending on the platform and do something like that. However, there were some times that were confusing to me when Chris, did I call him Jeffrey on accident last night too, by the way? That just popped into my head. If I did, and Chris, if you're watching this, I apologize. But Chris, there were times when I felt like he knew the answer, or he would even say, well, I know the answer to that. And then it would turn into this whole almost Socratic method, which is really the last thing that I expected. And it would be like, so what do I want you guys to do? Almost like a teacher teaching its students, which is fine. I can see that as far as thinking through coming to a conclusion. But the whole point of doing the Socratic method is to ask leading questions to come to your own outcome. But when the outcome doesn't get shared, if that's the right one or not, it's a little bit off and it doesn't make sense. And I think also we are very, very exhausted of having the runaround with either I know something you don't know, you guys are way off, and nobody's going to share anything with you. Right. So that is a little bit of kind of my first hot take on that. I will say that there are a handful of things that we have seen in the Idaho 4 community with certain guests. There are some things that we have questioned a lot. And don't get me wrong, I know you can go down the entire speculation route. I've done it. I know it. One thing that I find very, very odd is that the 4 a.m. timeline, it doesn't seem to waver. No matter how much audio, no matter how many noises we hear on that audio and screams, the cars, the potential manipulation of the video, it doesn't waver at all. And oh, thank you, Starla. That's what it was. I think I called him Scott. Thank you. Thank you very much. Whoops. It doesn't waver at all. And that is odd to me. That it doesn't even seem to be entertained. I don't know if that's a red flag that we're way off type of red flag, or if they just don't know red flag and they're still cemented into the narrative in certain aspects, right? However, as we dive into this, I want to finish with this. I feel like that interview, it was one of the best streams that the Hive has had. And I will say that as far as what happened in this interview, I can say that I personally felt like I pushed back as much as I could without, making a guy who's trying to promote his book and et cetera, being a guest, right, feel super, super uncomfortable. I tried to say, why is that? Why can't you tell us? What are we supposed to do with it? And I was trying to ask it in a way, getting him to open up. I didn't want him to ever go on defense was my goal. Okay. And thank you to everybody again for the super chats, for the comments, and for the engagement. Now, I have a handful of comments. So because I took the Discord question of the day, I have a handful of comments that I saw either from the live chat last night or from the YouTube comments. Okay. So I'm going to start with this one from T. Smith. And let me just pull this up here quickly. Okay, let me move myself down here. All right. So T. Smith, very, very good thought on this. And honestly, I could see this making sense. So T. Smith said, come on, people, wake up. The footprint in front of Dylan's door tells almost the entire story. Two people were holding a conversation in the doorway. Now, when I looked at this, we've all said, or a lot of people have said, this angle, right, of the shoe, it's pressed up against, and it's almost in, a perpendicular line with the door. And if you can imagine this, like if a door is right here and you're almost like leaning against it, like talking through the door, I can see why that print could end up there. Right. So I thought it was a really good comment, a really good take. And just going back to Brett Payne And what he said, it's during the processing of the crime scene, investigators found a latent shoe print. This was located during the second processing of the crime scene by the ISP forensic team by first using a presumptive blood test and then amino black, a protein stain that detects the presence of cellular material. The detected shoe print allowed a diamond-shaped pattern similar to the patterns of a Vans type sole shoe or shoe sole just outside of DM's bedroom located on the second floor. This is consistent with DM's statements regarding the suspect's path of travel. Yeah, listening through the door, maybe trying to break into the door with a shoulder check. No fingerprint taking. Let's see. And so anyways, good comment, T. Smith. You get the GOAT award for that one. Now, oops, I don't know why I have that in that order. Okay, so this next one. We know, and I'm going to get everybody's opinion on this too as I talk. So please, I know you guys don't hesitate to share that opinion in the chat, but let me just say this. So Mara Shibra, Jesus, sorry about that. So what else could be hiding blood? It's a great question. I thought this White Claw box, if you watch the interview, I was rather shocked that none of us had said, is that White Claw box put there purposely to cover up some blood? And this comment is a good point. There's been, a lot of talk about that ping pong table. It had to have been knocked over. It had to have been moved. Did they move the cups and look for blood underneath these cups set up? Right? Did they move the bar cart when they're processing this crime scene? I find it hard to believe that there's not blood under stuff too, right? So, yeah, he really wants us. I agree with that. There are things too, Hive. Let me say this, and I don't want to be all over. I'm trying to recap and I'm trying to show stuff from that really stuck out so that we can get into the spare bedroom. I forgot to mention as I was giving my thoughts, one last bullet point. Did anybody else feel like there were times where it seemed as if he was being rather cryptic, where if you read between the lines, you could absolutely tell what he was meaning? There's like 2 or 3 questions for sure that he did that on. There was also, whether it's a Freudian slip or not, we had been talking about, could the killer have been a female? Like 2 or 3 minutes later, after he said, yeah, I've seen women do, people of all, race, creed, color, women sometimes are more vicious. Like 2 or 3 minutes later, he said the killer when she's leaving. Again, could just be a Freudian slip. But I thought it was odd that that question came up, and then, it could be the Freudian slip. He could have said it because of that question, or it could have been. I mean, I've suspected that there's been a female potentially involved in this whole mess. And I saw a couple of super chats come in. I had to take down. Actually, no, I can turn it back on. I took that down for the interview yesterday. There we go. So Brittany, thank you so much for the super chat. Said, we're not mistaken. There's too much audio evidence to ignore. Denying the footage from that night is at the very least highly suspect. I could not agree more. It is suspect. And I don't get it. There's another part of me too that feels like these people, they know stuff that we don't know. So when things sound very wrong to us, I don't want to gaslight myself, and I don't want to confuse myself, and I don't want to run in circles. There was a moment as I was watching the replay, taking notes for this stream, that I thought to myself, is it sound wrong to us because we were given different stuff than what Bill Thompson's Brady disclosure actually had? Does that make sense? Is there a chance that there's, similar to the body cam, publicly redacted body cam footage? Are there publicly redacted documents? Are there publicly, right? Is that a stretch? I don't know. I don't want to confuse people by that. I don't want to say, I don't want to have people saying, Birdie's saying they're releasing fake documents. I'm just saying there's many times that I felt that last night. Whether it just be little names mixed around or messed around. I do find it odd too that in that, whatever, the 59,000 files and the photos, it's like nobody knows still when Ethan and Xana got home. Nobody. And the White Rabbit said, Showalter been telling us females are involved. He was asked very directly with the cartels or the area nights involved or drugs. That was another one very similar to the 4 a.m. timeline. It wasn't even a hesitation. He was like, no, it's not that at all. And it's just how do certain things line up and how is it completely discredited right away? And Stormwalker, thank you so much for the super chat. Said, my pregnant butt fell asleep last night. Did anyone ask about the truck that morning that people went into the house and came back out with totes? Yes, he did bring that up. Some of the explanations, and I don't want to just say like they're flat out confusing as to how he's got a lot of detail when he's trying to explain it again without visuals. And he did write a book on it, but that it didn't line up, right? I know that Mark B's put a video out. I saw Pav put a video out about that. So that is confusing. It is confusing. I just also want to say, though, I don't know what to make of that. I guess that's what I'll leave it at. I don't know what to make it at. And Amanda Kessinger said, even Jules commended your interview, being the best thus far. Wish y'all would make amends because I love you both. Two vastly unique, differing styles of approach. We are community here. Same goal. Well, I would agree that we all have the same goal. Yes. Absolutely. Civilized Custom. Thank you so much for the super chat. And they go on to say, we need to use the same evidentiary standard in evaluating his information. Yes, I agree. I'm going to get through some of these super chats too, and then I'll respond to them all because I feel like this last one that Civilized Custom just said is a really good point and a really good outlook to take for it. Pierre 6976 said, if there was a female involved, could the brutalizing of Kaylee's face have occurred after she was no longer struggling? Wow. See, it's things like that. It's things like that where it makes a lot of sense. You're logically thinking through the rage kill. And yeah, I don't think many people would disagree with it that a female after the fact, if there was two perpetrators, could have come in and just absolutely lost their mind. Blue-eyed Candy 8965 said he did find the Aryan Brotherhood or the prison gang theory interesting, though. That's true. That is true. And Joseph Vladis, hopefully I said that right, dude. My bad. Said, isn't it confirmed by a PSYOP tactic to confuse subjects by providing a bunch of details, some of which are true and some of are false? So weird how dismissive he is about the drug revenge angle. Thank you. You know what? You summed that up much better in shorter and briefer than what I was trying to earlier, where I had mentioned the noise on the camera. I would loop that in to exactly what you just said as well. And what Joseph is saying is that there's a lot of truth, and then there's a couple of, bombshells that are the trap. And I probably said this about a month ago, maybe two. I said, we need to keep our head on a swivel, Hive. Everybody in this community does, because that's all that it takes. It takes 3 pillars of truth and 1 pillar of BS. The BS is looking like a nice juicy steak, and we jump on it, and now it just self-detonates. Look at these idiots. They thought that this happened, and it's like, well, we were led to believe that, and it was different than things that we've heard, and we want it to be true because it continues to reinforce our thoughts on the narrative being wrong, and it's a slippery slope. So I don't think that is wrong at all, Joseph. Thank you again. Now, what I'm going to do here, and geez, Hive, I am sweating. I got to get that air turned on. And I have the Ethernet cable now instead of Wi-Fi, but I don't want it to lag still. So what I'm going to do here is I want to pull up a couple of clips from last night's interview. And then we will get to the clip where he talks about the spare room, and then we'll go into it. And Jesus, Hive, holy hell. If I don't take the sweatshirt off, I'm going to be drenched in sweat. Give me 2 minutes, all right? All right. I'm back. Sorry about that. All good to go. Thank you for the patience. And now let's get into it. Much better. Much, much better. You know, when you shower, you take a hot shower, and then you get dressed right away, you start getting the post-shower sweats. That is what happened. So, all righty. Let me share this. And I want to get to a couple of the super chats. So put myself down here. Dude, I felt bad when he was like, geez, that thumbnail made me look old. I'm just like, geez. So I had to change that this morning.
Does it show anything? No.
Oh, I thought you were saying that there's one that would pertain closer to that. Okay, so this right here, we're going to start with this one right here. This is talking about the cameras. Okay, I felt like this was interesting for sure that he goes, yeah, there are cameras that you guys haven't seen. And then I go, oh, I thought that there was, you know, you were talking about a camera that was closer to the house.
The part of my life that you don't know was I've seen everything. And I've seen everything committed by kids and women, men, old, young, different colors, different places in the world. Women can do the same thing men do, and maybe more vicious. Yes.
Wow. That is interesting. That is interesting. Nina Love said, many updates on Bryan Kohberger. And can anybody question or interview him? Thank you, Birdie, as always. And Chris, thank you for your time and pieces to the puzzle we've been missing.
Well, anybody can interview him. I chose not to because I didn't want to diminish.
I don't feel like everybody can interview Bryan. And I understand his approach to the book seems to be that, either he decided to do this for the reason of he's going to go down the path of I'm going to create speculation based on documents, right? And then also what he says that he had access to with the Brady disclosure from Bill Thompson because of his ex-colleague that gave him that information. It seems like he was dead set going down the path of I'm going to say this and I'm going to just show that, yeah, there's reasonable doubt, there's uncertainty, right? I don't feel like it was really something that it was like, this is what I'm going to, this is the hill I'm going to die on per se. And I don't mean any disrespect to him. I think a lot of people picked up on that throughout this interview and through the other interviews as well.
I didn't want to taint one way or another, the way I looked at his involvement or his plea or whatever else. There's nothing he was going to tell me that he didn't tell anybody else, which is zero, right? But yeah, anybody could apply to, if he'll agree to talk to you, just go and interview him in prison. I have chosen not to. If he reached out to me and wanted to talk to me for whatever reason or his family, I would be very happy to do that. I haven't chased it.
Were there tunnels underneath the house? Shayla asks. No. Okay.
Was there another camera that you don't know about? Yes. Are there other
don't know
cameras that you don't? Yeah, there's plenty. There's all kinds of surveillance video shot that doesn't necessarily show anything, but there are many surveillance cameras. They looked at every surveillance camera within miles and miles and miles, and there's lots of video that shows nothing, right? So yes, there is.
Oh.
Does it show anything? No.
Oh, I thought you were saying that there's one that would pertain closer to the house, is how I was interpreting that.
Well, I will say that's also true because I have all the video that shows the white car in various places.
I just had the same reaction that I did last night, still hearing that. That's hilarious. What does he mean that there's one that is closer to the house, is how I was interpreting that.
Well, I will say that's also true because I have all the video that shows the white car in various places, and I don't think that's been released.
Holy cow. Wow. I did not know that. So, well, I obviously Hive will be debriefing tomorrow, so I'll have to remember to comment on that just again, in the efficiency of getting to. And I think you're spot on. Who just said that? Brian Todd. I think you're spot on. I think that this could absolutely be behind the house. Could it be the camera of that project, the group project that people have said that they had a film group? There was a Facebook comment that went viral like wildfire when somebody said, "Hey, we had a tripod set up for a time lapse and we caught a girl going towards a black car," and I forget the exact time. Let's see. Sonia, sorry if I said that wrong, said, "You know how it's hard to remember how you imagine someone before you met them? I feel like this happened to the narrative. We get more insight, but not clarity. And now we don't know what to think." You know what? That is a great way to describe it. I absolutely know what you're saying. It's like we think we're getting somewhere. We've been banging our head against a brick wall for a very, very long time. And then, let's just use some of the guests that we've had in the Hive as an example. Jeffrey Gentry, right? Comes on, unbiased take, talks to us, got call of his family, reaches out, comes back in. And there's things that are like, dude, I mean, I understand not knowing the case. And then there's things where it's like, there's just Dateline and NBC and mainstream narrative stuff, which is fine. People can share that. But again, it's like, can you tell us why? And that's what I've learned with a lot of these guests is many people that do have the power to know, and they have the connections to find out stuff. It seems few and far in between of people that really want to come on and share their personal opinion. And I understand that, but it's it's fear driven, in my opinion. It's fear driven of credibility. It's fear driven of judgment. It's fear driven of profession and career, which are all valid reasons to maybe not stick your neck out there and say it. But at this point in the Idaho 4 case, a lot of people find it unacceptable. A lot of people don't like that anymore. We're sick of being dog walked right now. That's how I feel. I'm sick and tired of just getting yanked in whatever direction. Like, oh my God, did you hear this person's going to cover it? Candace Owens is going to cover it. Oh my God, there's a new book coming out. We got a blood pattern expert. And yet, where are we any closer? Are we any closer? And I'll put a quick poll up. Are we closer to the truth than we were on day one? Serious question. From type of 1 for yes, type of 2 for no. Are we any closer to the truth than we were day one? And I'm not saying that, well, we've shown Bryan Kohberger did it. Remember, day one, they don't know who did it. They don't know who did it day one. So we have, 75% of people saying no, 25% saying yes. And when I say closer, what I'm saying is not that we don't have more information, but I'm asking, are we closer to finding out who killed them? Why did they kill them? When did Ethan and Xana get home? Where's the weapon? What's the motive? How did they get inside the house? Who died first? Were Dylan and Bethany home? Did Dylan and Bethany see more? Are they involved? Why did they get such easy questions? Toes, thank you so much for this point. I'm glad you said this. Would it be logical to say that if the true suspects are free, they are most likely monitoring the chats? Most likely, yes. I mean, think about yourself. Would you watch if you were the person on the run or hiding? Probably. You might want to stay up to date. Maybe it'd cause a little bit of paranoia. In addition, I'll add on to that. There are people that are absolutely involved in this case, one way or another, whether it's families, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's people at the University of Idaho, or maybe they're in the frats or the Greek life. I know they have to be watching. The mainstream media has to be watching. The cycle of what people in the Idaho 4, I'll call it the truth community, right? Shit, the way that they've explained Bryan did it still doesn't feel like the truth for how he would have done it. On that farthest side of the spectrum of, fine, you think he did it, but how? Why? Give us some actual meat on the bone. And the cycle of what we report on here in the truth community, it feels too in stride with certain disruptors or other things that kind of come in and divert us. Yes, that's exactly right. Loca Chica. And they will steer you in the wrong direction purposely. And I want to make this clear. I'm still digesting this entire interview, right? So if you've ever interviewed somebody, or if you've ever, been a part of a panel and just public speaking in general, when you're focused on that conversation, you're really just thinking about the conversation and you're trying to think on the spot. That's why I'll go back, and after I interview people, I'll watch the replays, or while I'm editing, I'm picking up on things that he said that really in the moment I didn't hear, or I didn't have time to give thought to it. So I'm still digesting it. And, there's a handful of just weird things, really how he said it too, that stuck out in the moment. I just couldn't drill down as to why last night, outside of what I attempted to. Why did he change the subject so quickly to give us pointless story with zero information about it, such as the camera with nothing on? There was, I mean, I will agree and admit to that. There was a lot of, there is. Okay, well, what is it? I can't tell you. I would love to get a round two. I would absolutely love to get a round two. Let's continue. The questions in.
Well,
Ronnie,
in trying to figure out the movements for that white car, ostensibly Bryan Kohberger's car, and trying to put together what they could identify from the car, they got video from many, many, many different places, and they pieced it all together, saying we saw a white car in this house, video on a garage video, on a store video, whatever else. So that exists. I believe that's never been released.
Thank you for sharing that. I did not know that. Well, and so the reason why I said I did not know that is because the way that he made that sound was different than the 1112. Does that make sense? Did anybody else interpret it that way? Meaning that, this compilation of Brian's path, like we've seen the different videos, yes, but the way that he described it, I was like, I did not know that. I only thought that it was just the 1112 where it was a bunch of different clips spliced together that they talk about. Okay, you know what? I'll admit this. This is now starting to confuse me. Does anybody else feel perplexed on, did Bethany call or did Dylan? And I don't even care if that's a stupid question. It is a stupid question. We should absolutely know that. But is anybody else getting confused by that? I'm so lost on that. He said it the entire night. He said it throughout the entire book. So the call came from Bethany's phone. But then we see Bethany walk. Okay. That's just, it's something that it's just different. It's rather odd. Good point, Uncle Daddy. Rev Bev, Kaylee was begged to come back by Dylan. Any ulterior motive there? I know you mentioned that in your book as far as the date to the Pi Phi formal.
Oh yeah, that's another thing that that's a big thing too. Kaylee came down. Everybody knows she wasn't there. She came down for the weekend, and she was, by all accounts, including Dylan's date for the formal. They went to the formal for a very, very short period of time and left separately. I don't know if that means anything, but that's the case.
Okay, here's one. Ronnie Van Halen said, Chris, I want to give you a rest from the Idaho. No disrespect to Ronnie Van Halen. We don't need to hear that question. Okay, here we go. Oh, you guys can't even see the questions. My bad, guys. I will move myself up here. There we go. Now you can see the questions that were being asked last night. Is it true Ethan was cheating on Xana? You mentioned Erica in the book.
That's a tough question because the records show that there was a lot going on in that house. I'll say that right now.
What does that mean? He did not hold back. I'm not going to speculate. I don't stray from the facts in the book. And then we got to this dynamic of like hookup dynamic as far as who's with who. And something clicked where he was like, well, there's rumors on that. No, there's rumors on that. Which seems just very off pace for how the rest of the interview went. Yeah, and that's right, Blue Eye Candy. Apparently Jack D was hooking up with somebody. But listen to the way that he says this. Even when the question first gets asked, there's another good comment. I didn't put it up on the screen before I replay this. Somebody also said, you have to remember, this dude was a negotiator. He was a sniper. He's got a lot of training, CIA feds, all this stuff. So it's not unrealistic to think there's mirroring behavior going on. There's, right, if you don't know what that is, it's when somebody's talking to you. There's a really good book called The Like Switch. If anybody's read that, it's essentially how do you get people to like you, and mirroring their body language or their tone or their phrases of speech is one of the things that they suggest. I'm picking up on a lot of that as I replay this. It could be natural. It's also a sign of engagement, but let's watch his body language when this question gets asked.
Oh, well, this is a tiny, tiny fraction of them. But the answer is that playing guitar is one thing. Writing that shit's another thing. Jimmy Page wrote some of the most iconic guitar question because
Ethan was cheating on Xana. You mentioned an Erica in the book.
That's a tough question because the records show that there was a lot going on in that house. I'll say that right now. But no, I can't say that Ethan was cheating on her or that she or anybody else was cheating on anybody else. No, I do not say that. But I do say college students in general, people at that stage in life in general, have a lot of different interactions. And that's just life. It doesn't mean anything bad. That's just life. So cheating, no, I don't say that.
Shoot, where did that one go? Because here we go. No, I will ask that one in a second. It goes right here. So Sassy Sister Sledge said, where do we go from here now that the book is done? How do we move the needle forward with respect to this case? What is Ethan and Xana's timeline that night? So I don't know if you want to start with the Ethan and Xana part, just because I just asked.
I'll just say Sassy Sister Sledge, and how much do I love Sister Sledge, right? Kiki Kiki Yaya Kia or whatever we're gonna say to that. But I don't know where we go from here. I'm hoping, because we live in the golden age of inquiry, right? You can do things on this podcast that I couldn't do. You know how to bring these people together. My hope, because I'm going to start a thing of my own at some point, my hope is to recruit an army that would tune in, and I would.
So here's a point in the interview where these questions, I started to notice, not that I don't look super thrilled already in the upper corner where he's going with this, but I started to notice there became longer-winded questions and then quick answers. So it was a lot of detail about unrelated. I'm going to get to the answer quickly, and then next question. And guys, look, my interactions with Chris, I liked the guy a lot. Backstage, super cool dude. His manager, Russ, super cool dude, right? And I don't have anything personally against him, and I would love to have him back in the Hive for round 2. But I also, there's a time and a place to be critical of the information when we're very serious about diving into this and we want to get to the bottom of it. And there's a book that gets released. It's like, okay, we're having fun on a podcast. We're chilling. We're talking. But there's a pattern that starts to emerge.
Assign them to teams and squads, and we'd work individual cases. So we introduce a case. We bring teams of people together. We send them out to find what we've done here, and we consolidate with rules and with training. People could come on and they could talk to Turvey about blood spatter, or they could talk to your person about whatever. And we start giving people access to real information. Like, I'm not knocking any of the people that go on cable television with these shows, but I don't care about a soft focus lens and some cello music. I want to know what happened. And
Amen.
The people that
so do we. So do we. We want to know what happened. And there's a good question that comes up too right here. Grammy Tammy's shooting her shot on him. Where is it? Come on, come on. Where are these damn questions? Okay, here we go. This is a good one by Duneweiser. Well, and that leads to Duneweiser. Thank you so much for the super chat, brother. Said, is some of the information that you haven't been able to answer in the book? And I think that, Chris, you just kind of did answer that where.
Yeah, and I'll be specific. Again,
sorry. We'll put
Chris
a good word in.
Talk about, what's that?
So put a good word in for the Hive.
Oh, I will. I'll definitely put in a good word for the Hive. What I think is going to happen, and I think this is going to suck. This is all fun and games sitting here talking to you right now. But there's a lot of people that are not going to be very happy about me saying these things in a book. And it's not, I know that I know that's where it's going. But
Hive, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I skipped this question that I'm trying to find. I don't want to keep going back more. I don't want to confuse anybody. Okay, this is the question. Okay, because it's a good one, but let's be honest. So I apologize. I was trying to see.
In this particular case, that didn't happen.
And just so Verity Leanne, this is the only super chat that I see in the log.
What's that mean? You accidentally didn't read my SC at Flash. So what's that mean?
So I apologize.
I love those pounds, man. I love that pound sign. Go Brits. I love it.
Okay, this is a good question. This is a good question. I don't know if you're going to know the answer for this. Hey, Chris, if you got to get going, you can tell me to shut up.
Guys,
did anybody I'm not going to lie. When he let out this sigh, I was like, "Uh-oh. Here we go."
Love it.
Okay, this is a good question. This is a good question. I don't know if you're going to know the answer for this. Hey, Chris, if you got to get going, you can tell me to shut up.
Guys,
by the way,
you shut it down. I love this stuff. I'm meeting wonderful people. I love it. I love talking to you guys.
Okay. So let's be honest. 555, thank you for the super chat, said, if it was the same attacker, how is it that Kaylee and Maddie's blood wasn't mixed at all with Xana and Ethan's? It feels like two completely separate scenes. Now, I'll bite my tongue. You go ahead.
Right on. Let's be honest. 555. Right on.
Two separate scenes. Okay. All righty. I like the crypticness. If that's what that was.
No cryptic. Here's the deal. Maddie and Kaylee's blood and nobody else's was found in the third floor bedroom. Xana's and Ethan's blood and nobody else's was found in the second floor bedroom. Okay. Stay with me. Right.
Yep.
Kaylee's and Maddie's and Xana's and Ethan's blood were all found in the common areas of the second floor. So how did that happen? How did the blood get tracked from the third floor across the common areas of the second floor and not into the second floor bedroom, but that blood got tracked outside? It's a great question. Very insightful.
Do you know the answer?
I think I do. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I do. I think I do.
Wow. Okay. That was one of the most telling responses that we got from him. What does that mean? So he goes, right on, let's be honest. And I'm like, I like the crypticness. And he goes, no cryptic. And I'm like, what do you mean? That is absolutely cryptic if you're going to say right on and only allude to that. And then I go, do you know the answer to it? He goes, I believe I do. Okay. And earlier in the stream, I said, why is the second floor so secretive? These are the things that just drive me up a wall, because think about if we just knew what happened in the living room. Phoenix Rising said maybe there was a threesome that turned into jealous and hate. I mean, the love triangle thing, who knows? I mean, that was something that popped into the narrative right in the beginning, where I think it was the Chapin family. Mrs. Chapin wanted to get out in front of that right away and said there's no weird love triangle. The White Rabbit said glowies never stop glowing. I like the word glowies. Boomer, thank you so much for the super chat, said the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he did not exist. There seemed to be a lot of gaslighting and misdirection when questions from the Hive hit too close to the truth. That seems to be a pattern in this case. No doubt about it. Thank you again for the super chat. Brittany Dickey, welcome to Hive Plus. Joseph Valdez said, if I remember right, he said, quote, they made him take out information on Kopaka. Did I hear that right during the interview? Yes, 25 pages. 25 pages in the book. When Kopaka was referenced, Chris had said that he was forced to take that out. When he refers to they, it could mean a couple of things. I believe, if I remember right, he might have said his publisher. So I'm not sure because I'm not an author, I don't know if there's any authors out there, if there's anybody out there that knows how this works. If you are contracted with like a publishing company, I would guess that publishing company who's going to publish an author's work has their own legal department. Does that legal department then have to go and check? And was that checked with lawyers and God knows who else? And is that why it came out? Because I would find it hard to believe that he wouldn't. Well, I don't know. I would think that an author would want to put as much stuff in the book that they could get by their publisher to sell more copies of the book. Mary Tyler said, oh, yes. Brandon said, yeah, they probably said it was a no zone. Yes, the publisher. Yeah, that's what I would guess. Highly edited publishers. Titty Twister on the Run said it's all ass backwards. Alrighty. And shout out to one of my mods for just texting me this. So Verity Leanne, we found your super chat. What can we do now to get the truth with the untested and unreleased info? What can the public do to get further? I kind of had asked a different question of that, but just to reiterate, Chris, I mean, what do you recommend if you were in our shoes right now? What would you do?
I'd get Turvey on here and start asking some of these questions.
Well, put Chris a good Hall, word in.
Talk about what's that?
So put a good word in for the Hive.
Oh, I will. I'll definitely put in a good word for
Thank you
for the Hive. What I think is going to happen, and I think this is going to suck. This is all fun and games sitting here talking to you right now, but there's a lot of people that are not going to be very happy about me saying these things in a book, and it's not. I know that I know that's where it's going. But the reason I'm willing to suffer that indignity is because I believe that I've broken the dam. I believe that I hope that I've given all of you and all the other people that are paying attention to this thing a sense that this is how you do it. You just go find the information, you talk about it, and you open it up. And you got to break a couple eggs. But none of this shit's easy. It's not easy. But
so I want to comment on that. When he says, I believe I've broken the dam. Okay, we have to look at this in two different ways. We have to look at it from our lens, being people that have scoured through the documents, through the photos, audio, video. And then you have to think about the average person that is still being a mockingbird, a parrot of the mainstream news, saying it's so obvious it was Bryan Kohberger. If we were to be honest with ourselves, and the goal of the book was to have people who fully believe Bryan is guilty start to have some doubts about it. Type a 1 if you think this book would start to wake them up. Would it start that process for people who believe Bryan is fully guilty? Because I do believe that, I really do. I genuinely think that if somebody who thought Bryan was guilty and didn't know much about this case, this book would be an eye-opener for them. And what I was trying to say earlier with when I said that he kind of set his path dead center on he's not going to sway one way or the other, it's not going to be his opinion. That's what I think his ultimate goal of this book was. He needs to make it enough that people like us will read it as we're doing. And then there needs to be the other side of the aisle that really, if we're also being strategic with this, we need a lot more. We need the numbers. Also, we need a lot more people talking about this. And that means that a lot more people have to become aware of it. And then a lot more people have to change their mind.
Can do it.
Here's how I would describe it, Chris. One of the things that I'm very appreciative of this book doing is that we, and I'm including a lot of people in the chat. It's the same thing that I just said there, Hive. Here's a big question right off the jump too, with the hookup situation. Get to everybody's. So Susie Hat said, any rumor about Jack D and Bethany hooking up?
I'll say genius question, but maybe not exactly that combo.
See, it's like you can't tell us what happened on the second floor and that we're way off. And yet that part just, it's so perplexing. It's so perplexing and confusing, which now I'm going to have to go back earlier in the stream here, Hive, to get to the part about the ping pong table, because I want to listen to this and then go into the spare bedroom.
Pitching it. You with me?
Yep.
So the prosecution case is it's a knife that he's stabbing and hacking at Xana as she goes through there. So Turvey goes back and he says, look, in your report, you say this blood was transferred by the violent throwing of the liquid blood. How is that conceivable that he didn't track any of it out of the house? And that's where the naked part comes.
Yeah.
According to Dr. Turvey, she says, well, he went and cleaned up and took off all those clothes. So he goes, so you're saying he was running around naked, which is it, right?
Yeah.
And then gets the clothes out. But that's not where Dylan Mortensen saw him. When Dylan Mortensen saw him, he was fully clothed, headed to the door. So there's major gaps in that narrative.
You know, and I will share a theory. I understand the whole facts thing, but one of the ways that we've talked about you brought up the bathroom downstairs, and I'm not skipping ahead, but and then there's been reference of a cleanup. Somebody in the Hive actually had mentioned this. I thought it was a very good theory, is that did the blood, if they were cleaning up, were they kind of just throwing it to the bottom of the stairwell? Rags, towels? Okay. No.
Well, first of all, if anything were laundered, it would be on the second floor. The laundry, the washing machine is down that hallway to the left. That's the bathroom.
But if they bagged it, one would think they would probably throw it away, right?
Right. And we'll get there, because I've got something we haven't talked about, the mysterious SUV that we haven't talked about yet, that I talk about in the book. So the question is, if all that blood is on the wall, if all that blood, the walls, it's on that flat surface, that wooden surface, it's on the beer pong table, it's down the hallway, it's on the floorboards. See the molding down by that orange bag? Yeah, the molding, but in a different place. Well, no,
dude, hold up. Hot girl bummer. What a great question. So many people, I've showed an article on the stream about how Bethany Funk had allegedly seen somebody running naked in their house. Chris is referring to, this is what I want to do. I don't just want to pick apart why Chris's answers might not be straightforward. Okay. So I'm going to mentally reset, and I'm appreciative of Hot Girl Bummer's question for this reason. We need to, while yes, we can understand things that he said that we feel are off or wrong. I think that enough people have acknowledged that. Let's focus on the things that seem to be a little bit cryptic, that seem to be where he's asking us to read between the lines. And Hot Girl Bummer just said, so was the naked person naked for another reason? Brandon said that wasn't a belt. Oh my God. Oh, but seriously though, I think that's what we should put our time and energy towards, right? I mean, enough people can break down, this is why he's wrong, this is wrong in the book. It's like, okay, let's actually see if there's something that this guy who looked at the documents and had talked about that is not in the book. Type of 1 if that sounds good. Can we all go to that mindset? I'd like to make sure that everybody in the chat is behind me on that, because comments like what Hot Girl Bummer just said are crucial to being able to have that discussion. So we got to get into that mindset. Okay. So we got some ones coming in. And Ethan Chapin was found naked. Okay. See how this snowballs a little bit? Bethany sees a naked man. Hot Girl Bummer says maybe they were naked for another reason. Ethan's found naked. Did Bethany see Ethan running around? Now, when they say his socks were white and there was no blood on it, that's fine. But okay, so his white socks, was he walking around without shoes on? Is the bottom of his socks dirty? Right? Do you know what I mean? So
okay, so leave this up. Okay. Skipping out. All right, just look at that photograph, right? So look at that orange bag, and you see to the wall to the left of the bag, above the bag, right in there, that area right there, there was blood there. There was blood on the wall. And then see the molding by the floor, that white piece of molding by the floor? There's blood there as well, okay?
Yep.
There's blood all over the vertical surfaces and on many of the horizontal surfaces in that part of the house. You know how much blood they found on the floor? Zero.
That's crazy.
How do you get from move through that house? Disregard the beer pong table and all the other questions. How do you have blood all over the vertical surfaces and many of the horizontal surfaces, and you have no blood whatsoever on the floor? Explain that to me.
You know what's funny? I've even had a blood pattern Jesus,
Analyst.
Yeah, analyst Jeffrey Gentry on. He was rather perplexed too, right? You could say, well, maybe they did this or maybe they did that, right? But to get
okay, tell me what did they do? Tell me what did they do?
Well,
how do you do that without getting
see that part? Like it feels like he knows
blood on the floor.
You know, a lot of people have speculated, was it shoe covers? Did they, is there tarps laid down? Did they use some sort of
well, let me tell you this about shoe covers. Shoe covers just cover your shoe. They still get covered in blood. They still track blood.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Right. I mean, so you have experience in crime scenes in general, and not even pertaining necessarily to this case. Have you ever seen somebody murder 4 people with a knife and not leave footprints walking out?
No.
Yeah. I mean, it seems very unreasonable and improbable.
There's blood on the floor. Looking down that hallway in that photograph, when you get to the doorway, it is awful. There's blood. So this is Kaylee's room. There's blood everywhere. There's blood all over the floor. There's blood everywhere. When you cross that threshold from the blood in the room to get out into the hallway, it stops. There's none. Zero. Not a drop. Nothing.
Yeah. See, guys, think about what he's saying right here. This is why I wanted to listen to this with you all. Think about what he's saying and think about in the book. Okay? Think about this part of the book. Chapter 2 is titled, let me just pull this up here. Chapter 2 is titled this. Or I'm sorry, chapter 1 is titled this: Suicide, French fries, and silver sedan. Okay? It says silver sedan, not white sedan, not white car, not silver car. So think about what he's saying right here. The blood stops and it doesn't go in the hallway. The title of chapter 1 is Suicide, French fries, and silver sedan. I'm going off of the book. Okay. I'd like to give some of the stuff, like I said, a chance. I'd like to give it a chance. It deserves a chance, in my opinion. It deserves a chance. We've ripped apart a lot of evidence, and the only way to rip apart more is to give it an honest chance. Okay. So when he goes through the book and it gets to the part where he's talking about seeing the unredacted body cam footage of Nunez, he describes Nunez. He's trying to make sense of things that make no sense at all. You can hear it in his voice. Dude. He's trying to make, Nunez focuses the beam of his flashlight on the bed as Warner looks in. Nunez says, I think he might have killed himself. And that's redacted. Then it gets to the point where after they go through his written report, after they go through Nunez's written report, there's a part of where he states, and Bill Thompson also did not describe that Ethan, I want to read this word for word because I don't want to mess it up. So he goes through and he talks about how Nunez in the unredacted thing says, I think he might have killed himself. And then, damn, I can't find it right now. I can't remember what it is. But he goes on to say that at a certain point, it was that Ethan was considered a suspect, which is wild. I'm trying to find this here. Give me 2 more seconds. It's at the end of the chapter. Jesus. Well, it says that I can't find it exactly in the book right now. Damn. Sorry about that. You guys get my point. But listen, I don't know. Just listen to the way that he says it. I'm not saying, again, that this is exactly what happens, but doesn't it seem like, can we agree at least that with that being said in the book and the way that he alludes to it, it kind of putting two and two together, so maybe in this case, maybe that's what he thinks. Have you ever seen somebody murder 4 people with a knife and not leave footprints walking out?
No.
Yeah. I mean, it seems very unreasonable and improbable.
There's blood on the floor. Looking down that hallway in that photograph, when you get to the doorway, it is awful. There's blood. So this is Kaylee's room. There's blood everywhere. There's blood all over the floor. There's blood everywhere. When you cross that threshold from the blood in the room to get out into the hallway, it stops. There's none. Zero. Not a drop. Nothing.
Yeah. It's just so weird. It's so weird. I know a lot of people too, when they had read in the reports that the bodies were posed or staged, people had thought, were they killed outside of the house? And did they mean that they brought them back to 1122? Can you say unequivocally that did not happen?
They died in that bed. Yes.
They died in that bed. Xana died fighting on the floor. Ethan was in the bed as well.
Oh, well, you're talking about the second floor. I thought you meant the third
floor.
Well,
either way, I'm talking in general, but none of the victims were killed elsewhere and brought back.
Well, Paulette said, again, I'm answering all these questions based on evidence, not.
So at first I kind of felt like that was avoided. Well, either way, I'm talking in general, but none of the victims were killed elsewhere and brought back.
Well, Paulette said, again, I'm answering all these questions based on evidence, not my supposition, right? But I can say Sutton's report is unequivocal. Even Ethan Chapin was found in bed naked, except for a pair of white socks. The floor was covered in blood, and there's no blood on his socks. The reasonable conclusion is he never left the bed. He was killed in bed, never left the bed. And he was not carried to the bed. That would have been impossible due to the nature of the wounds and the tracks that would have been left in doing that. There are major problems with blood in the common areas ascribed to Ethan, but that's another question. These 4 people died where you see that where they were found.
And so going back then to that question of like, they were not killed outside of the house, not any one of those 4.
Oh, by the way, I just glanced. I don't look at these comments, but I just glanced at one, and they said, "Well, what why is there no blood on the floor?" And the answer is, it was cleaned up. Somebody cleaned the blood off the floor, all the floors, right? There's blood on the floor, and there's the famous blood that was found outside Dylan Mortensen's room. The footprint in the blood. That blood was cleaned up also. They found it with a luminol test after the fact.
I actually believe that I have.
If you had that photograph, it would be great. But the question, maybe I'm not being obvious enough in some of the things that I'm talking about. What I'm getting at is
like that. Hive, that's what I'm saying. I'm telling you, the more that I listen to this, how many times have we said none of this case makes sense? And he just said, maybe I'm not being obvious in how I'm saying it. So if he is privy to some information and he's saying that it's nothing like what we thought and that there was a lot going on in that house and that somebody cleaned it up and he's calling out other things, can we not forget the fact that they can redact stuff? They can change stuff. I'm not trying to go all the way out in left field. I'm really not. But I am saying that, is there a chance that when he just says, maybe I'm not being obvious enough, and that the way that he answers some of the super chats, I don't know. I mean, I would find it hard to believe that there's probably not people in the Bureau or people that are in these positions that are like, yeah, it's bullshit that they're lying. Or maybe they don't know and they're like, this does make us look bad. They're trying to expose a cover up and he's an author. He's writing about it, right? I don't know. I'm just saying it certainly seems like he is trying to guide us. We may have been looking at that the wrong way. Maybe it's that he's trying to bullshit us, or is he trying to guide us in his answers? Because I will say, whenever I started going down a path, there's twice, I believe, in this interview where I started talking about a certain theory. He was quick to shake his head and just be like, no, oh no. And really, I don't know if that was, we have to make a decision. Is it between the lines or is it just deterring us? Because it seems as if a lot of people have a a hairpin trigger on everybody's trying to throw us off. There's nothing that they're trying to get the truth out for, which again, I've gone down that route too. So I don't know what to make of it. And it's just listening to it again, it just sounds different.
And there's the famous blood that was found outside Dylan Mortensen's room, the footprint in the blood. That blood was cleaned up also. They found it with a luminol.
They were not killed outside of the house, not any one of those four.
Oh, by the way, I just glanced. I don't look at these comments, but I just glanced at one, and they said, "Well, what? Why is there no blood on the floor?" And the answer is, it was cleaned up. Somebody cleaned the blood off the floor, all the floors, right? There's blood on the floor, and there's the famous blood that was found outside Dylan Mortensen's room, the footprint in the blood. That blood was cleaned up also. They found it with a luminol test after the fact.
I actually believe that I have.
If you had that photograph, it would be great. But the question, maybe I'm not being obvious enough in some of the things that I'm talking about. What I'm getting at is the crime scene on the third floor, the bedroom looks like a crime scene. There's red blood with all the characteristics you would expect. The same thing, the bedroom on the second floor is red blood, dried, blood spatter, blood transfer, and everything else. The areas from the entire second floor, from the bottom of the staircase to what you're looking at, the door to Xana's bedroom, that entire area looks dramatically different than any other places in the house. Because, as Paulette Sutton said, those blood stains were diluted with an unknown substance. Well, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? Water?
They never say. But first of all, I mean, we could talk. I don't want to get into things I've talked about in other shows unless you want me to. We're trying to stay, no,
let's stay fresh. Let's stay fresh.
Yeah, let's stay fresh. So let's stick with what you're talking about right here. Yep. And the answer is that there is a very, very, very big hole in this thing, suggesting that somebody cleaned up those areas of the second floor. The blood does not look the same. The prosecution report says those blood stains, and there's a ton of them. Do you have another, Bertie?
Guys, I'm telling you, like, part of me, it's like there's topics where his tone and stuff changes. That sounded very, very genuine, right? When he's like, there's a massive hole in this thing, and he's asking me to pull stuff up so he can show me, and he's flowing differently, right? If you've watched other interviews of Chris when he was on, some other shows, or even at times in this interview, it sounds slightly different. Like, there are things he can for sure talk about, and he knows that he can say with conviction that we can pick up on. And then there's other things where either he doesn't know, it's not a part of his goal, or he's been told not to go there.
You have another? Okay. Stick with what No, we can talk. I don't want to get into things I've talked about in other shows unless you want me to. We're trying to stay, No,
let's stay fresh. Let's stay fresh.
Yeah, let's stay fresh. So let's stick with what you're talking about right here. Yep. And the answer is that there is a very, very, very big hole in this thing, suggesting that somebody cleaned up those areas of the second floor. The blood does not look the same. The prosecution report says those blood stains, and there's a ton of them. Do you have another, Bertie? Do you have another? Okay, look at that right there. That wall right there is covered with blood, right? Some of those things, when you get really close, if you zoom in, like right in the middle of the screen, zoom in. Okay, that is a blood stain where you can see that blood hit the wall and dripped down. It looks like a blood stain. Go back to the original picture.
Yep.
Now go to right in the middle of the screen.
Are you at this one? Zoomed in?
Yeah, that picture, but look where that green dot was. The photo you just had with the green dot. What I'm trying to point out is what you're seeing very, very close up are blood stains. They're drips of blood that you can't even see in a photograph. How did a blood stain that we see in those rooms get to look like that? It has no dimension. Blood, I say to your viewers, throw something against the wall. I don't care what it is. Ketchup, spaghetti sauce, throw it against the wall and watch it dry. When it does, it has geometry. It has a shape. It has edges.
Is he saying that the blood was sanded off or painted over? I'm serious. Is that what he's alluding to? Does anybody else hear that when he's saying, he's like, seriously, think about it. He's kind of making this. He's like, it has geometry. It has shape to it. And he's like, how does blood end up looking like that? Right. But he's trying to say, how is it cleaned up? He's talking about how is it cleaned up? It could be wiped off. It could be whatever. Okay. Washed. I'm trying to get at, okay, so people are saying, no, he's not saying that. But my whole thought is, he's like, how does it end up looking like that? It's wiped off, obviously, yes. In some way, shape, or form, it's cleaned up, but it's like, this is where it's also confusing. He's making a big deal out of that, where that would be rather obvious. It's like, okay, well, yeah, they cleaned up. We've said it 4 times leading up to this point. And let me go through some of these super chats. We got it's all sus. He has kept saying the BRs are different than the LR. Cleanup in the BRs, the bathrooms are different than the lower room. Wait, what? The left room? What if Dylan came out and checked on them and got blood on her feet and then freaked out and cleaned, thinking she might be accused of something? That's a good point. I think that's a human instinct, maybe. But why not say that then? I don't know. See, it's just, again, there's murders. It's straight up murders. And if she was freaked out that she might be accused of something, it's like, well, what else did she possibly know that could end up? Oh, bedroom and living room. Thank you, guys. What else did she possibly know? I agree. And Radine, every time. There's like 4 or 5 names in here. I can't remember. It's Radine. Thank you so much for the super chat. Said, well, I felt he was dismissing things too fast that we thought was the narrative. Xana's blood in the second floor living room, or being Xana's blood in the second floor living room, and he had to remove the entire information about Kopaka out. That's true. How much different would we feel about this book if we could read the 25 pages? I would be curious if he would ever give those 25 pages to us and not publish them. I wonder if there's a price for those. I'd be curious to see that. I'd be very curious to see that. For sure. The White Rabbit 9, thank you so much for the super chat, said, if his press run is creating more confusion than clarity, he served his purpose. Glowies never stop glowing. Your advice about heads on a swivel is spot on. His jump from tunnels to cameras is funny. Yeah, thank you, White Rabbit, for the super chat. There's a lot of things to say about that. It's so tough because it's like, even figuring out what somebody's intentions are around this case are tough, right? They come in with good intentions, then the way they answer it, it's like, is it because you don't know? Is it because of this? And it's not just with Chris, it's with anybody that goes on any stream about this case. Your head does have to be on a swivel. Oh, thank you, Tidy Mama. Actually, Tidy Mama 3, I think you were asking about that spare bedroom, which I want to get to. Said, Tiny Mama said, you had the most compelling interview this far, Birdie. It's sad what the community is saying about him right now. Is anybody surprised? I mean, I'm serious. Is anybody surprised that that's happening? And that's not a backhanded thing towards any one person or people specifically. It's just, is anybody surprised? I feel like sometimes it's like, it's so tough because we're begging for help. And then it's like, this is why we can't have nice things. But then there's also like a lot of discrepancies in those things as they're occurring. And it makes it hard. I guess I'm not surprised at the entire situation in general, not just with Chris. I personally, here's my thoughts on it. I would personally rather have it where we get people to come and talk to us. And then after the fact, like kind of what we're doing here, we can use our own discernment and we can debrief. Versus while somebody is live and it's distracting and it's just, I don't know, it's not as productive. I get it. We could, if anything, lean into, well, why do you think that? How come you're saying that? Have you heard anything else otherwise? Like directly calling a person out in that moment, I don't know how much we're going to be able to change his mind. I mean, he wrote the damn book. It's on paper. It's in the stores. Like, what's he going to do? Release a book and be like, I got it all wrong. No, of course he's not going to do that. Nobody would do that. You'd be an idiot actually to do that. So I don't know why people are surprised that he wouldn't backtrack and say, thank you all for educating me on this. You know, that's what I don't get is a lot of people know a lot of stuff about this case that don't write books or don't produce content. Probably know more. I mean, there's people out there that know a shit ton more about this than me or the little intricate details of it. I'm not hiding that. And to say that you know the absolute most about it, I don't know is the best approach either. And so if he was to come in here and do that, I mean, I thought that for what it's worth, I mean, he got beat up, guys. If you go look at some of these chats, he got beat up. And he still came in here in his third interview after, you know, he did a couple other shows too that aren't really a part of like the Idaho 4 community that most of us are a part of. I think he did that D. Myers show as well. I mean, he's done a lot. So that's, I guess, what my thing is. But I'm proud of the Hive. So I really am. I think we did it the right way. Yet it's not knocking anybody else. I think we did it the right way. We had them on. We asked questions. Yeah, people can, you know, quote unquote disagree, but I think we really went about it the right way. And this is when we are using the time to debrief it. Now, I'm trying to remember, when in the interview did we start to talk about the spare room? Was that at the end in the super chats? I think it was. You know what? We start kind of rapid firing through some of these questions. Type of one, do you guys want me to just go through like the last 5 minutes of the super chats and re-listen to these? Because I need to, as I said earlier, digest still what he was saying about the living room. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put together my thoughts on what could be cryptic, what could it mean, what is he trying to say? And I really still have not had that much time to. It's obviously a long interview, but I'll try to have that lined up. And so tomorrow for the call-in, I think a really interesting topic would be some of that cryptic stuff. How Hot Girl Bummer said, you know, was somebody in the house naked for a different reason? And then we kind of had that little snowball progression of, well, Bethany saw a naked man. Oh, Ethan's found naked, right? I think things like that are going to be really imperative to maybe moving the needle. I think that we've gone down the same path so many times, trying to, as like Pavarotti would say, like pick fly shit out of black pepper, or black pepper out of fly shit, whatever the saying is. We've done that enough. Let's start seeing if there's anything. Let's just see. We could be way wrong. This could be a miserable fail. And that would be a fun call-in.
The condition of Maddie Mogen's case. That's what you.
Let me get this first question to the beginning. Yeah.
You don't have to send it again.
Oh, she said it right before I asked. Okay. Where is it? Jesus.
I don't know how you keep it. This is so fast.
Somebody
keeps asking about the 3 fights. I want to be clear. There were a lot of altercations because it was a Saturday night in a college town, right? None of them that I have seen, and I'm not saying the number was 3. There were several that were mentioned by various people. So when
he did say 3, though. Said none of the 3 fights. Where does he just come up with the number 3 for that?
I don't know how you keep it. This is so fast.
Somebody
keeps asking about the 3 fights. I want to be clear. There were a lot of altercations because it was a Saturday night in a college town, right? None of them that I have seen, and I'm not saying the number was 3. There were several that were mentioned by various people. So-and-so would say so-and-so got in an altercation, and I think some of those have leaked out, and that's what you're talking about. None of those led to an indication that it involved Kaylee or Maddie or Xana, and that would somehow have contributed. It was a Saturday night in a college town. There were problems. Everything, like in the corner club, right? There was this guy that got kicked out. I'm not going to say his name either, but there's all kinds of stuff like that. I wasn't saying there were 3 specific fights that could be involved in this case. That's not what I was saying. I was saying there's a lot of activity and a lot of it was recorded. Fair enough.
Kawanda asked, did the unredacted condition of Maddie Mogen's room match the severity of Kaylee and Maddie's injuries?
Okay. Did the unredacted condition of Maddie Mogen's room, you mean, did the unredacted photographs of Maddie Mogen's room match the severity? The photographs I've seen, pretty clear.
Yeah, because we can see.
I spent a week in the autopsy photos, right? I don't wish that on anybody. Yes, the photographs very clearly match the severity of the injuries. Yes, they do.
Okay.
But you haven't seen unredacted photos. You've only seen redacted photos, right? The public?
As far as the victims?
Yeah, of the bedrooms.
Yeah.
I think they were all redacted.
Okay, so I have a question about redactions. I had shown this to start the stream, right? What's behind this black box here, if you're able to say? Why do they
Blood stains.
Oh, it's blood stains.
It's just blood. There's nothing else there.
Okay. Can you confirm that there is 100% no way of extracting data from Kohberger's cell phone to prove he was in Wawewa, whatever it is? I can never say it. Wawewa Park that night.
Well, I think I understand the nature of this question, but I'll say I have all the data from Kohberger's phone, the one that he had in Washington, the AT&T cell phone. I have that dump, and I don't think there's anything that would need to be extracted that wasn't. Nothing I saw in any way indicates that he tried to cover information in his phone. Nothing. So I don't know of any extracting data that they don't already have. They have a lot of data.
Why was Dylan spared?
No clue.
Why is Kaylee's...
Nothing I'm going to talk about.
Okay. Why is Kaylee's death certificate different? Now, I can explain this because I've actually shown this on stream. Okay. So I'm going to explain this right now again. This entire thing, I still don't know how it gets tied that Birdie says this. There is a photo. It's been on Reddit. People have shown it on TikTok. It was submitted as a Hive Mind find that showed Kaylee's death certificate was December 10th. It was a Hive Mind find. It was submitted, and it's like, whoa, that is different. Am I saying that it's accurate or that it's logical? No, but guys, can we all agree that that was something that it was out there? It was interesting. And listen, I will just say this. I'm flying through these. People are asking about it. I don't even know why there's so much tension around that question. Like, Jesus, okay, there was a screenshot. You look at it, you use your eyes, you read, and it says December 10th. It caught somebody's eye, and then it made its way around. So I don't understand the big deal about that for questioning that. And whether, definitely not real. I mean, there's a lot of shit that and I'm not calling you out, Esther. I'm just saying, I agree. It's definitely not real. I have not heard anybody outside of that screenshot really saying, oh my God, Kaylee, like over and over and over and over again. It seems to only really get brought up. And if I'd hit that like button, brings us up, I'm curious, again, let's watch his body language.
They have a lot of data.
Why was Dylan spared?
No clue.
Why is Kaylee's...
Nothing I'm going to talk about.
Okay. Why is Kaylee's death certificate different? Now, I can explain this because I've actually shown this on stream. It was a screen grab that circulated on multiple different platforms, Reddit, whatever. And we didn't make it. It was out there. It showed like December 10th.
I can tell you nothing about that because I haven't seen it. It was not in the investigative file. That must have been divulged someplace else, but that death certificate was not part of the investigative file that I've ever seen.
Okay. Why is Kaylee's death certificate different? Now, I can explain this because I've actually shown this on stream. It was a screen grab that circulated on multiple different platforms, Reddit, whatever, and it showed like December 10th.
I can tell you nothing about that because I haven't seen it. It was not in the investigative file. That must have been divulged someplace else, but that death certificate was not part of the investigative file that I've ever seen.
So why does he say that must have been divulged someplace else? I don't know. See, now I'm just like, fuck it. If people already think we're talking about it, let's actually talk about it. Who says divulged? That must have been divulged somewhere else. I mean, I don't know if that's like, he's like, I've never seen that death certificate. I don't know. I've actually shown this on stream. It was a screen grab that circulated on multiple different platforms, Reddit, whatever, and it showed like December 10th.
I can tell you nothing about that because I haven't seen it. It was not in the investigative file. That must have been divulged someplace else, but that death certificate was not part of the investigative file that I've ever seen.
Okay. Can Jack Decor's phone be heard on the 1112 camera ringing?
Not that I've heard. I mean, my ears did not hear it. No.
A lot of questions surrounding drugs, right? A lot of rumors.
Yes.
As I'm sure you've heard in the body cam of Snyder and House and Gunderson, a lot of people said that they
Yes.
heard rumors of cocaine or fentanyl and ODing. Anything
Yes.
with dealing or overdosing?
I don't. The only reason I think this ever happened is because one of the victim's mothers, and you all know who I'm talking about, I think, one of the victim's mothers had issues with substance abuse and was in jail various times. And her ex-husband made an allegation that her drug activity could somehow be related to the cartels, and said that in public, not just to the police, but said that in public. So that somehow led to conversations about drug activity. I've seen nothing but some very basic recreational drug use, like Adderall, some things like that, in anything. I've never seen anything. Police never found, and they did investigate. Nothing I've ever seen shows any indication of drug dealing by any of the people in the house.
And I made a decision at this point, really, to not. I mean, we've been on almost 3 hours, and just in general, like as I was saying earlier, I don't know how much damage I'm going to be able to do to walk him through the potential argument for that, right? So, you know, when he's given that answer, I'm like, okay, that's his answer. Okay. Have you seen anything about, I'm even hesitant to ask this question, but I've seen it. It's been talked about. I'll say it. I'm only hesitant because I probably already know the answer you're going to give me, but have you come across rumors of a relationship between someone in the house and a police officer?
I just saw that. Many people have asked me that. I don't know where that started. I know it is it is a conversation, but it has been explained to me. This has nothing to do with the police file. This has to do with my sources that helped me with this book. And I asked them that question. And the idea was, this started with a suggestion. And I've got to be very clear. This is on recording, right? We're recording this right now, right? Nothing in the file in any way indicates this. But there's a rumor, there's a conversation right now going on around a lot of people that police had informants in the fraternities to do what informants do, to give you an idea of who's dealing drugs, who's doing whatever else. I don't know if, I don't have a comment on that. But the thinking was that because of that, one of those relationships led to one of the women in the house. I've never seen anything that indicates that's true, but that's where it started. I think it started with speculation that somehow became part of the narrative. It's not part of any verified narrative that I've seen anywhere.
He's definitely in the know on rumors, right? And I saw a really good comment. So Tiny Mama said, I personally am grateful for his information. I think there's too much that checks out. He is close with Turvey, and I'm reading between the lines and revisiting a shit ton with a different lens. Thank you for doing that, because I would encourage everybody to do that. There's probably some stuff that, it's like, nope, that will never check out. But is there other stuff? I swear. And when I said, is anybody surprised how this went? Guys, I don't claim this. Okay. I don't claim this from happening. I'm not putting this out in the universe, but I'm just going to say it. There is a part of me that is fully convinced if somebody gets Dr. Turvey on their show, people will go at Dr. Turvey. There's no coordinated route towards something. Can anybody else see that happening? I could see people telling Dr. Turvey in the chat that he's wrong. Type of one, if you could see people actually arguing against that guy. And to Chris's point, I spoke with Dr. Turvey on the phone. Chris referenced Dr. Turvey a lot. And I could, I think Tiny Mama brings up a good point. Like, he's close with Turvey. He's got these other stuff, but I could totally see people. No, that Dr. Turvey doesn't know shit, right? That I could just see it. I could see it. And I don't even think they'd be trolls. I dead ass don't even think they'd be trolls. And I don't know. It's just, that's the energy surrounding this case.
It's not realistic in a way that I have ever seen mentioned.
What was the writing on Dylan's arm that looked like it had said Gideon was here in the body cam footage?
I know what you're talking about. I don't think I ever really paid any attention to it, to be honest with you. I mean, I could look, but I don't remember that being an issue.
Was anybody bound and gagged? Before you answer that too, I want to add on a part of this. Why would Steve G in the you can read this in the transcripts with Judge Hippler say, and this is Kaylee's father saying, I hate using the word gag order because some of the victims were gagged.
The answer is I don't know. I don't know why he would say that. I don't know why that would be an issue, except the only thing I would say is lots of the family members never got any information about anything. To this day, they didn't even know about the plea agreement, right? So many people, many family members have expressed dismay at the way they were treated during the course of this investigation. But that is their opinion. Those are their comments. I have no clue. I have no idea. But I can say, based on crime scene photos, autopsy results, and all of the written reports, I've never seen a single thing anywhere that indicates in any manner, way, shape, form, or anything else that anybody was gagged at any time.
Do you know when Ethan and Xana got home?
Nobody does.
Okay.
I know that nobody can say when they actually got home.
Nobody can say when they
Not specifically.
Okay.
No, I mean, we know when Dylan and Bethany and Lakeland and everybody, there's photographs, there's time hacks, there's all kinds of evidence of when people got home. The DoorDash establishes Xana at the house at 4 a.m., but it's a big mystery. It's a big mystery where exactly Xana and Dylan and
it's a great comment, Sluther Dare. I still think that they staged it to look like a suicide. I don't think that that's a stretch at all.
And Ethan were at various times during the night. I mean, we know where they were. Police know where they were at various times, but there is a lot of unsolved. There are a lot of holes in specifics, and nobody has established that I've seen precisely when they got back to the house. Right? Dylan has said, Dylan is the only really source of information because Bethany was in bed, and Dylan has said in all of her interviews that I've heard, has said that she didn't know when they got home.
Did they die around 2 or 4? Thank you, Anxiety Mosquitoes.
4.
Unequivocally.
And listen, I can say that with certainty. The blood cast on the second floor was liquid at 4:17 a.m. And if anybody had died at 2 o'clock in the morning, the blood cast at 4:17 would not have been liquid.
Okay. So to me, that when we think about that, to me, that sounds like, could that be Dr. Turvey? If he is close with Dr. Turvey, could that be a part where it's like if Kaylee and Maddie are killed first and the blood is casting off the knife, well, it could have been 2 hours later, the blood would be dry on the knife and it wouldn't be casting off. Okay. So I like how he explained that. From at least for that, there was a good argument for sure about why he thinks they were all killed at the same time. There wasn't maybe 2 separate timelines, but he did say earlier in the stream, there's 2 separate scenes. And he goes right on, let's be honest, right on. So it's 2 separate scenes, not 2 separate timelines in a way, is how I'm kind of reading what he's saying. And Hive, this is going to be the last super chat that I read. Thank you to everybody who did send that in. Seriously, you guys are incredible for that. Mary 2800 JMO said, how come Kaylee didn't have defensive wounds?
Another brilliant question. Let me answer. Let me think about it, because I don't know that that's accurate, to be honest with you.
Actually,
that's an I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that she didn't have any defensive wounds. She had so many wounds. Wow, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if she did or did not have defensive wounds and why she would or would not have had them. I don't know.
Okay, this is seriously last question, because I am curious about this one. Was anybody pregnant?
Okay, how did I know the blood was liquid at 4? Because there was blood cast at 4:17, around 4:17, when Xana was encountered on the second floor when she was chased. All the blood on the common areas of the second floor that end up on the walls, the beer pong table, the molding at the floor, all of that blood was cast, meaning that it had to be liquid. So whoever tracked Maddie and Kaylee's blood to the common areas of the second floor at around 4:17 when Xana was killed. It had to be liquid
Oh,
at that time.
I see
Does
what
that
you're
make
saying.
sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the progression from Xana and Ethan and the thud and what could be Xana screaming.
If anybody had attacked them at 2, it would have dried long before that. So the physical evidence is the blood was cast liquid when it hit the walls. It had to be liquid proximal to the crimes on the 3rd floor. Otherwise, it wouldn't be time proximal. Otherwise, it wouldn't, or temporary proximal. It would not have been liquid.
I've seen this be asked now a bunch. Was anybody pregnant in that house?
No.
Okay. Hive and Chris, with that, we're going. So, guys, I mean, look, I'm not trying to. Here's what I'm going to finish with. I'm not trying to diminish the fact that we had an epic interview. I really do. I think that we asked awesome questions. The answers, I'm never going to tell you guys what opinion to have or not to have. However, I would like to continue to have as many guests as we can so that we can continue to have these discussions and go through it, right? And I like that approach. Let's have the guest on. Let's ask them a bunch of questions, right? Let's not just go for the jugular while they're in the hive necessarily. Let's ask them good questions. Let's be respectful of it. Obviously, we know all these things. I'm not trying to sit up here and lecture anybody. But then like today, and now we can go back and we can watch it, and we can watch it with or through a different lens and either solidify your opinion or change your opinion. So, you know, Hive, type of one, I hope that this floods with ones, but type of one, did you guys enjoy that interview with Chris? Because although, yes, there might be things that don't line up from what we've been told, I really felt like this interview was a really good opportunity to have a chance at getting some things that we did not know. And as I said, you know, when I talked with his manager, Russ, I believe that they tried to get onto mainstream channels. I really do. And so I think it's awesome that they sought out and agreed to, you know, coming onto the show. And let me go through these super chats. So Sammy said, if nothing's next to the sheath but blood, what's the shadow on the 14 placard? Will you go back to the sheath picture? Did I have the sheath in this one? Whoops. Let me just get this. I'll pull this up. This shadow here, to me, what that looks like is somebody's arm who's taking the photo. Like they're looking down at it, and it's their arm across it. Does anybody else think that that's what it could be? I feel like you can kind of see the elbow down here. Kind of, if you follow my cursor, it kind of seems like an elbow, and you can kind of see the t-shirt sleeve right there. So it goes like, you know, hand, elbow, t-shirt goes down. That's what I think. Good question, Sammy. Brittany says Bill Thompson and the MPD comments were sus to many. Well, I think I couldn't even contain myself. But he's like, I'm a fan of Bill Thompson. I'm like, what? I couldn't even help myself when I said that. I couldn't believe it. Like, and I don't know why. I guess I couldn't believe it. I just, as far as I know, he's ex-law enforcement and all that stuff, but just actually hearing somebody, it's just so different than what I'm used to coming out of somebody's mouth. I mean, the victims' families, at least being the G family, they don't even say that they're fans of Bill Thompson. And so when, you know, you're talking to somebody about this and they go, I'm a fan of him, it just kind of came out. I'm like, what? Brittany says when he was referring to the killer, he said they. Yeah, I've caught that a couple of times, talking almost in right as if there was more than one person. I agree, and it didn't seem like he was just saying it singularly by any means. Joseph Valdez. So before I read Joseph's, if we get round 2 with Christopher, or if there's anybody listening that is going to interview Christopher, I will suggest 2 questions that we did not ask, and I don't think anybody did. And if they did, I didn't see them. The Apple Watch, that one could have been asked about. I wish I would have asked about that. And I wish I would have asked about crypto. Did any other interviewers ask about crypto? We talked about the drugs and we talked about the cartel. I wish that we would have asked about a crypto angle just to check the box and see what he said. That one, I could not believe that I forgot to ask that question about Hex or any of that. But Joseph, thank you so much for the super chat. Said ridiculous. They know elevation changes in the house based on cell phone data, but they couldn't give us clarity on Xana and Ethan. Also, Black Ford Explorer. Yeah. So whenever I hear, and thank you again, Joseph, for the super chat. I'm going to go off that and say, whenever I hear all this stuff that nobody still has answers to, maybe it's time for us to accept that we're never going to get that answer, or that is the evidence relevant, or do we just think it's relevant, or is it very relevant and we're never going to get it? I don't think there's a chance of it'd be really interesting to see a couple of months from now, a year from now, what comes out, because I do wonder if there's evidence that we're never going to know what happened with it. And if it does come out, did it end up being as important as we thought at that time? And yeah, the Ford Explorer was Hunter Chapin, or it was registered to the Chapins, but I do believe that Hunter was there. Yes. Wet Bandit said, I do believe that Black Explorer holds a lot of answers. I do too. Jennifer, have you read the book? I've read it twice. Well, 1.5. The part that I kind of skipped over was the long timeline table, because I felt like that would need a lot of extra time the second time. But I reread some of the more interesting chapters, and when you get the book, you'll know which ones those are. Like the first 2 or 3 are really good. The whole book the book is entertaining. I'll say that. UFO Dogs read it twice too. Karma's Rain said, whoever the psycho was watching Maddie at the grub truck looks like the emotions she's going to sleep and didn't let her out of his sight. Scared me. Who was he? That was Jack Showalter. This look like kind of this, right? So hoodie guy. Yeah, a lot of people have talked about that. It's a weird gesture. It's weird body language. Don't get me wrong. So, and if you guys want to get the book early, Barnes and Noble has it right now. And I think there's a couple other spots where you can get at Audible and get the audio version as well too. All right. Tranquility Based Production says mental exercise. Ponder the opposite of what he said. It was about drugs. They know exactly where Ethan and Xana were when they got home, and Xana was the target. You know what? I do like that approach. We've said think opposite many times, and thank you for the reminder, Tranquility Base, as well as the super chat. And I think that I got everybody's super chats. Nope. Shanna Ward. I gathered that he pointed to the frats, not cartel, multiple weapons. Look at the 6 a.m. black SUV footage. Who's missing hair? Unknown female DNA. Yes, very good points. I like I said, I got to go back and I got to really, because the first time that I watched it, I was just watching it, listening. Second time I watched it, I was looking for comments in the chat to spark discussion for the stream. Now, the third time that I'm about to watch it, I'm going to just be taking notes on his answers. Jersey number 9. I know jersey number 9 was not Jack Showalter with the Sleepies. Oh, Jersey guy did. Yes, thank you. Jersey guy, my bad. Jersey guy made the Sleepy thing. Jack Showalter is the hoodie guy. Thank you. Yes, Lindsay says the answers are all there. And Brandon says that's Kai David in number 9. Hive, I hope, again, you guys all enjoyed the interview last night. Like I said, tonight, I wanted to debrief. I didn't get to the spare room as much as I wanted to, but I will be very, very excited to hear your thoughts tomorrow. Again, try to look for stuff that's in between the lines. Let's have really good discussions tomorrow. I always love talking to you all for these call-ins, and I hope that people come up with some really, really interesting and intriguing thoughts. So if you guys go back and watch, send birdiesHiveMind@gmail.com the clip of it if you'd like me to play it during the stream or during your call if you're able to. And Phoenix Rising finishing out the stream with a super chat saying, nobody will ever convince me that the 2 o'clock hour wasn't the hour this all went down. Those screams of terror and true fear. And I don't disagree with you, Phoenix Rising. Those screams are telling. And that's why I started this stream saying it's shocking to me that not really one person close to the case has ever wavered from that. And with that, Hive, please hit like, please hit subscribe. I will see you all tomorrow. And with that, sleep good, everybody. Oh, Amanda Kessinger just sent one in. Lodge party? After Ethan's sister took him to her event, Emily Allant says in her interview, Xana attended that lodge party via viewing her snap. I have to go back and watch that interview, Amanda. I pretty much have watched every one that's out there, but as far as how in depth I've gone and what I can remember, I can't, but that's interesting if she would have been at that lodge party. So thank you for the super chat. Hive, enjoy the rest of your evening. I will see you tomorrow. Cheers.